There is one ayah that can instantly unlock your rizq. The surprising part is that many Muslims either overlook it or don't even realize its power. So let me ask you honestly, are you really going to ignore an ayah that could open the very provision you've been searching for right now? Let's get straight into it. Allah says in the Quran that if the people of the towns had believed and had taqwa, He would have opened for them blessings from the heavens and the earth. This tells us something incredibly powerful. Two qualities must exist within us, Iman and Taqwa. And when they do, Allah promises openings from above and below. Blessings we never expected, opportunities we never planned for, and ease we never calculated. So the real question becomes, how do we attain Iman and Taqwa? And how do we live with them consistently? That's exactly what we'll explore today, inshallah, so that blessings can flow into our lives with ease from both the seen and the unseen. First, let's understand Taqwa through the Quran itself. Allah defines it clearly when He says, "O you who believe, fasting has been prescribed for you so that you may attain Taqwa." This shows us that fasting is key, but not only in a physical sense. Most people think fasting is simply staying away from food, water, and intimacy. But the Quran shows us that fasting has layers and deeper meanings. Look at the story of Maryam alayhi salam. Allah tells us that she said, "Indeed, I have vowed to the most merciful a fast, so I will not speak to any human today." She fasted from speech. She withdrew from the external world. She fasted from everything that distracted her heart from Allah. This teaches us that fasting is not just hunger. It is a conscious withdrawal from the dunya. It is the silence of the tongue and the calmness of the mind. It is disconnecting from distractions and turning fully toward Allah, saying, "Ya Allah, I am closing the world so I can open myself to you." And on a personal note, I'm currently going through a kind of dopamine detox from social media. I'll still be posting, but I realized I was getting too caught up in scrolling. These algorithms are designed to pull us away from reality and drag us into a digital world. That's why this feels like the right time to share this message. The things I go through and learn, I like to share because maybe you're going through something similar. It helps keep me accountable, and inshallah, it benefits all of us. Hopefully everyone gains some value from it. So yeah, let's continue. Even if you look at the story of the Prophet, he withdrew himself before revelation. He used to go and meditate and seclude himself in the cave of Hira. And this wasn't random. It was seclusion from the noise. Because when you silence the outer world, the inner light, the innate fitra that we all have as human beings begins to shine again. And this is incredibly important. This is what you call taqwa. This is God consciousness. It's having the awareness that Allah is with you in every single moment. Even now, while you're watching this video, this is an interaction that Allah is fully aware of. He knows the exact situation you are in right now. And that can either be a beautiful thing or a very frightening thing. But as believers, we should see it as a blessing because Allah is always here. And He is always there for us, especially when we need Him the most. Now your brain doesn't really know the difference between someone physically standing in front of you and someone speaking to you through a screen, because you still feel the influence. You're still absorbing. You're still reacting in a similar way. You're watching this video right now and your mind is engaged with it. So seclusion today means something much deeper than it once did. It's not only turning away from food during fasting and limiting it to what people usually think fasting is. It also means turning away from the influences of the outside world, meaning that you step away from everything that pulls you away from remembrance. This is what you could call the fasting of the modern age, where you fast from the noise of this dunya that constantly tries to distance you from Allah. Because every moment you disconnect from the world, you reconnect with Allah. And that is the path that leads to taqwa. Allah also says in the Quran, "O mankind, worship your Lord so that you may attain taqwa." So worship and acts of ibadah also lead to taqwa. But again, what is abdi? What is worship according to the Quran? The root meaning of abd is one who is completely owned, meaning that worship is not just a ritual. It is actually an identity. It is the state of knowing that my life belongs entirely to Allah. Not my job, not my followers, not my desires. My life belongs to Allah alone, meaning that we will always be enslaved to something. And if it's not Allah, then it becomes the dunya. It becomes screens, people's opinions, money, fame, or fear. So Allah is telling us very clearly, don't become a slave to the creation. Become a slave to the Creator. And this is a very important subject because many people have negative connotations when they hear the word slavery due to its historical context, and rightfully so. But we need to understand that Allah is calling us to a completely different kind of servitude. Allah is calling us toward a life full of bounty, purity, and freedom from the chains of this dunya. As the quote beautifully says, if you are not a slave of Allah, then you will become a slave of something else. Either we willingly submit ourselves to the Creator of the heavens and the earth, or we willingly or unwillingly become slaves to money, work, family expectations, desires, or status. So we need to return to our original role, our innate fitrah, which is worshiping and becoming servants of Allah, because our fitrah naturally turns toward Him. We are His creation, and Allah alone is pure, while everything else is corruptible. So why should we devote ourselves to things that perish? Why should we worship the dunya without even realizing it by placing excessive importance on it? Without accepting this reality, you risk selling yourself and your values to the dunya, sometimes without even noticing. Now look at how Allah describes the servants of the Most Merciful. Allah tells us that they walk upon the earth humbly, and when the ignorant address them harshly, they say, Salam. They respond with peace. This is what it means to walk as a true servant. This is Taqwa in real time. They have humility in their walk. They have peace in their speech. They have control over their emotions. And they are not attached to ego, meaning they don't feel superior when they are rich, nor inferior when they are poor, because they do not attach their worth to the dunya. They attach it only to Allah, who is truly infinite, meaning that these worldly things become irrelevant in comparison. They remember who provides both wealth and hardship, and even when they are insulted, they respond with peace, not because they are weak, but because they are aware. Even Imam Ali radiallahu anhu stopped in the middle of battle because anger entered his heart. He said, I began fighting for Allah, but when my ego entered, I stopped. This is Taqwa in action. So worship is not simply about doing more rituals. It's about doing everything with Allah in mind. This is the color of Allah. Sabghatullah wa man ahsana min Allahi sabgha. Who is better than Allah in coloring? We are His worshippers, meaning let Allah color your entire being. Allah's coloring is light, while the dunya's coloring is darkness. Let His light shape your thoughts, your actions, your walk, your responses, and your identity. Because that's when your life itself becomes a form of ibadah, not merely based on outward performance. And this is exactly how the prophets lived. All of the prophets emptied themselves of ego and false ideologies, then allowed the divine to fill them completely. Even if you look at Prophet Ibrahim alayhi salam, he questioned everything. He withdrew from his people. He detached himself from false systems and said, I do not love those that disappear, meaning that he refused to devote himself to anything temporary because he sought the everlasting source, the one who never perishes. All of the prophets walked this same path. They emptied themselves of the dunya and allowed Allah to fill them instead. This is Taqwa, but Allah didn't stop there. He paired Taqwa with Iman because Taqwa without Iman becomes fear without direction. Iman gives it light. The Bedouins said, we believe, but Allah replied, you have not yet believed. Rather say, we have submitted, for Iman has not yet entered your hearts. So Iman is not just something spoken by the tongue. It is something that settles deeply into the chest. It is certainty. It is calmness. It is a vibration within you that nobody can truly measure except you and, of course, Allah. As the Quran also teaches us, Iman means believing in the unseen. It means trusting what you cannot see more than what you can see. which means that even when all the evidence seems against you and circumstances appear impossible, you still trust the promise of Allah. Even when everyone doubts, you know that all capability belongs to Allah, and you know that Allah is near. Iman is when the unseen becomes more real to you than the seen, meaning that if you are broke, Iman says a Rizq provides. If you are sick, Iman says a shifa comes from Him. If you are alone, Iman says that Allah is with me wherever I am. This is Iman. This is true power. Then Allah defines the true believers in the Quran. He says, "The believers are only those who believe in Allah and His Messenger, then doubt not, and strive with their wealth and their lives in His cause," meaning there is no hesitation, no wobbling, only stability. It is faith that shows itself through action. They give, they trust, they move, and they serve. And when Allah says to believe in Allah and His Messenger, the Rasul literally means the one who delivers the message. And the message that reaches us today is the Quran itself, the book that speaks, the book that is alive, the book that answers your questions and corrects your heart. If you sincerely ask Allah for guidance, the Quran will speak back to you. It contains a blueprint for every problem and every situation we may face in our lives. If we truly take the time to ponder over the Quran and reflect upon our condition, wallah, you will find answers. It is timeless. It existed before us and it already knows us. So don't limit revelation to history. The Quran is still alive, and it is still healing hearts every single day. And when you possess Iman like that and Taqwa like that, you enter into the divine equation of Allah. As Allah beautifully says in the Quran, "If only the people had believed and had Taqwa, we would have opened for them blessings from the heavens and the earth." The heavens represent the unseen, ideas, inspiration, intuition, and Barakah. And the earth represents the seen, action, opportunity, income, and manifestation. So Allah promises openings from both directions. You receive inspiration from above and results below. This is not only about spiritual reward. This is about real flow in life, blessings in health, wealth, peace, relationships, and purpose. The Prophet said that whoever increases in Taqwa, Allah will make a way out for him and provide for him from where he could never imagine. This is the same equation. Iman plus Taqwa equals the rizq we seek. So how do we live this daily? How do we actually implement it? First comes the withdrawal phase. Step back from the dunya, even if it's just for 10 minutes. This is incredibly powerful. Fast from the noise. Let your heart breathe again. Worship consciously and with presence, not out of habit but out of awareness. This is the Taqwa we are meant to carry in our hearts, the presence every believer longs for. Walk with humility. Respond with peace. Don't react to every situation at face value. Let things settle. Take a deep breath when you feel triggered, and remember that Allah is always watching. Allow Allah to clothe you in His light, in His nur. Believe in the unseen more than the seen. When life feels uncertain, anchor yourself to the ayah, not the anxiety. Remind yourself that rizq does not come from effort alone. It flows through Barakah, Allah's blessing that multiplies beyond calculation. And Barakah flows through Iman and Taqwa, the very qualities we are commanded to strive for. This is how the gates of the heavens and the earth open. Not through luck, not through hustle alone, but through alignment. This is the key. Recite this ayah often and live by it. If only they had believed and had Taqwa, we would have opened for them blessings from the heavens and the earth. Be among those who live from the heart, with Iman that does not doubt and Taqwa that does not waver. That is when life begins to open, not because you forced it, but because Allah promised it.